The long-awaited Togashi list is really accurate. Who the creator of this wonderful work chose as his top 5. Many names you do not expect are here, so hurry up, grab your popcorn and stay until the end of the video. Subscribe now, leave your like, and activate the notification bell. The universe of HxH, shaped by a restless mind like Yoshihiro Togashi's, is curious to notice how little is known, concretely, about his true preferences regarding the characters he himself created. Over the years, Togashi gave sparse interviews, wrote occasional comments in manga volumes, and exchanged a few words at events with other authors, but never firmly established an official top 5 of his favorite characters. However, small fragments of these statements, along with the care he shows in building certain figures, allow to imagine with some sensitivity who could make up this subjective and invisible podium. The only direct statement ever recorded comes from an interview in which Togashi revealed that his favorite character from the Phantom Troupe is Crollo Lucifer. And this single concrete piece of data, even isolated, already says a lot about the nature of the author's effective choices. Just this is enough to put him in his top 5. He has great things going for him. Crollo is a character wrapped in layers of silence, purpose, and emptiness. Leader of a group of charismatic assassins, he does not seek power, money, or even fame. He is someone who leads not because he wants to command, but because his presence naturally attracts obedience. He reads books while killing coldly, meditates amidst chaos, and faces his enemies with a tranquility that transcends the notion of good and evil. Togashi confessed that he admires how Crollo manages to keep a cohesive group without needing to impose himself as a tyrant, something he himself, as author and person, acknowledged he cannot do. This reflection between creator and creature explains why Crollo is not only complex, he is a sensitive mirror of Togashi's own insecurities and admirations. It's fair to think that if an official list existed, Crollo would have a guaranteed place on it, not only because of his magnetic presence in the plot, but because of the intimate echo he seems to have with the author. But if this list were expanded, filled by intuition, clues, and the way certain characters were developed throughout the work, it would be impossible not to include the inclusion of Kudapaka. Unlike Gon and Killua, who are more traditional protagonists, Kudapaka represents emotional complexity transformed into mission. His story is a constant lament for his extinct tribe, a thread of revenge intertwined with a sense of justice that dangerously flirts with self-destruction. Togashi dedicates to the character moments of intense emotional and psychological density, like when he plunges into an obsession spiral to hunt members of the Phantom Troupe, or when he develops a Nen technique that can cost his own life if used against targets not on his revenge list. This self-imposed limitation reflects a character seeking balance within chaos. Kudapaka carries the weight of loss, but also the shine of overcoming. He is one of the most refined characters in the work, emotionally and narratively. The way Togashi repositions him as protagonist in the succession arc of the Dark Continent reinforces this suspicion. Kudapaka is one of his favorites, even though he has never said it openly. Another name that almost always comes up in fan debates about Togashi's possible favorites is Killua Zoldyck. The young assassin who runs away from his own family fate carries within him a deep conflict between what he was trained to be and what he wants to become. He is in many ways the most human character in the entire series. Exposed from a young age to pain, coldness, and manipulation, Killua finds in Gon an anchor for his own emotional reconstruction. His journey is marked by a silent desire for freedom, not only physical, but above all, emotional. Killua's search for identity is constant and painful, and Togashi treats it with unique delicacy. It is no coincidence that Killua stars in some of the most impactful and sensitive moments of the work, like the day he defies his own family to protect Aluka, or when he faces his inability to act in critical moments because of mental restrictions imposed by Illumi. The way Killua evolves, with visible scars and others invisible, reveals an emotional attachment of the author to the character. He is not just a sidekick. In many moments, he carries the emotional core of the whole story. Although he is not the most conventional protagonist, Gon Freaks is also a natural candidate to be included in a supposed list of the author's favorites, but for different reasons. Gon represents the classic archetype of the pure, curious, and determined boy, but in HxH, this archetype is constantly subverted. Gon's journey is marked by morally ambiguous decisions, outbursts of anger, and moments of coldness that disconcert even his closest allies. Togashi's choice to deconstruct his own protagonist, showing that willpower can be as destructive as it is inspiring, is proof of his fascination with Gon. The scene when he sacrifices all his future potential in exchange for immediate strength to avenge Kite's death is possibly the darkest moment of his journey. He doesn't hesitate, doesn't ponder, he just gives in to impulse. This is not heroism, this is despair. And it is precisely because of this that Gon becomes so fascinating. Togashi didn't want him to be just a hero, he wanted him to be human. Perhaps that is the reason why, even with a construction that distances him from traditional shonen heroes, Gon remains the central piece of the narrative and, who knows, of his creator's heart.
Among all possible names, a character who may not appear as frequently in debates about favorites, but who could very well be included in this imaginary Togashi list, is Hisoka. The aura of mystery that surrounds this character, combined with his ambiguous personality, at once childish and sadistic, comical and threatening, makes him one of the most iconic in the series. Hisoka is the kind of figure that defies classification. He is neither villain nor ally. He acts for pure pleasure, with motivations that shift between instinct and the desire to test limits. His presence on screen changes the tone of the narrative. He represents unpredictability and the beauty of chaos. The way Togashi constructs his fights, especially the battle against Chrollo, is a clear example of the technical and narrative care he dedicates to the character. Moreover, Hisoka is a living metaphor for the spirit of the manga, unpredictable, contradictory, brilliant, and at times disconcerting. His existence seems to run through the plot as a reminder that rules are only the starting point, not the limit. These 5 names, Chrollo, Kurapika, Killua, Gon, and Hisoka, represent, each in their own way, facets of Togashi's creative mind. Chrollo carries silence and organizing emptiness, Kurapika, the weight of pain and the need for justice, Killua, the escape from destiny and personal reconstruction, Gon, the ambiguity between innocence and destruction, Hisoka, the chaos without purpose, the pleasure of battle. It is unlikely that Togashi has, in fact, a fixed internal ranking. His style, frequent pauses, wandering way of creating, and artistic honesty point to an author who does not stick to classifications. But if there is a constellation of characters he treats with special attention, it would be composed of these stars of varying intensity. The absence of official statements perhaps reveals more than their presence. By not establishing a top 5, Togashi leaves open the possibility that his affections change as characters evolve, as if each one had a life of their own and gained space as the narrative demands. In a work that refuses to follow formulas, nothing more coherent than an author who also refuses to limit his feelings to lists. But for those who follow Hunter x Hunter, for those who read not only the words, but the silences, the framing, and the existential dilemmas of each figure, it is possible to trace this effective map with some sensitivity. And by doing so, we realize that Togashi does not write with obvious favoritism, but with a kind of scattered, fragmented, and sincere love that reveals itself less in the spotlight and more in the shadows he chooses to illuminate, even if for a few moments. Names like Don Freaks, Tseridnich, Huigo-Ro, Gon Freaks himself with Nen restored, Ging Freaks, and Kurapika with Evolution and Death Pact are names that are also in a future top 5, some with many feats we know, and others less so. But the unfolding of the story itself will show if Togashi's top 5 there, that is, his favorites, will actually match the real top 5. I believe names like Isaac Netero, Don Freaks, Maha Zoldyck, and others at the top will be included. We will follow the unfolding of everything and enjoy all these moments. For example, Don Freaks is the greatest mystery of the work. He went to the Dark Continent hundreds of years ago and may still be alive. Ging claims that Don may be stronger, wiser, and more accomplished than any other known being. If he still lives in that territory that destroys entire expeditions and wrote 2 volumes about it, it is plausible that he has absolute mastery of Nen, perhaps even beyond known categories. Without appearing, he is already treated as a living legend. If Togashi ever shows his strength, Don will probably be the most powerful character of all time. We really have to wait, but the expectation itself speaks louder. We are eager for it.